Woohoo! What is up,
Woohoo!
Misfits? One and all to tonight's episode of Ask Me Anything or Say Something Funny. Woo! That's right, the show where we read questions or one-liners from our supporters or say something funny. Da, 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 da. The entire show is sponsored by our channel members who are listed in the description below and who you can be part of by clicking that join button. Boop-a-doo. And our Patreons, who you can find at our Patreon at patreon.com/Amy Newman, including awesome Patreons like Oz from the Atheist
Thanks,
Network
Oz.
Group, Ian Davenport,
Thank you, Ian.
a grumpy old
Thanks,
cuss.
Grumpy.
Ooh, Diana Smith.
Thanks, Diane.
Pat Lowinger.
What's up, Pat?
Ooh, Dale Pastel.
Thanks, Dale. Appreciate you.
Dave Gar. Woohoo.
Thank you, Dave.
Scott Duke. Ooh,
Thanks for the support,
Ray
Scott.
Jones. Tune.
Thank you, Rachel.
Rachel Holland. Woo.
Thanks, Rachel.
Senator Cato. Woo. James
Thank you,
Wolfe. Woo. And Matt Diggs.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you to all of our supporters. You enable us to make even more fun content like tonight's show. Ask me anything or say something funny. Now, before we begin, questions can be submitted beforehand via email, or you can tag James W. and myself at Amy Newman in chat. How many questions or one-liners you can submit depends on your levels of support. And with that, let the fun begin.
Woohoo!
What is up, interwebs? And that is to be expected. We are sending love out there as we may have to bash a little bit of theology while we get our first question set up. But sending so much love. How are you tonight, James?
I'm doing good. How about you, Amy?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited for your upcoming debate.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, I have a debate coming up this Tuesday night. It's going to be a later one, 10:30. It's going to be after a Kent debate, but it's on Standing for Truth, and it's on Noah's Flood. So it'll be exciting. I think it's going to be fun. And yeah, it reminds me, Amy, of some of our very first streams, like a year and a half ago almost, when we first started our show. And a lot of the time we were talking to ourselves. Maybe we'd get one or two people popping in, but a lot of it was talking to ourselves. But we grew out of that pretty quick.
Well, and I think that's what you have to do. You got to talk to a void a little bit, but then slowly but surely you find your people. and we have our kind of shtick, which is,
Our niche.
I don't
of the
think
community.
that we are fans of religion, superstition, um, illogical beliefs.
Stupidity. Yeah.
And there's a lot of that, unfortunately, around the world, in this country. But hopefully, as religion recedes, we will actually start to, I don't want to say come out of the dark ages, because the Enlightenment has actually treated us well. We just need to keep on moving forward.
Right. We still have to. We still have a little more baggage to shed, but we have come a long way. In terms of secularization and stuff like that. We've made a lot of progress, but religion lingers. It's hard to get rid of, but we're doing our little part to do that.
Exactly. And so I'm still sending love. It may take us, if you have a question out there, or
Fire it in.
once again, you want to say something funny, that is what we're looking for tonight. And I'm
So
actually really happy with the layout. Oh, and we have our
someone's
first
getting a little
question.
excited.
Hi, Ryder.
Calm down.
Oh,
Ryder.
well, we enjoy all puppies, kitties, no matter what other animal that
We're
you have out
animal
there.
friendly stream.
And all right, James, are you ready for our very first question?
Fire it up.
Do. Or at least. So we are going, and we're gonna fire up our first. I love we get to use all our graphics for the first time.
Fire away.
In 3, 2. Ooh, we got our first from James Wolf. We're sending love out there. We saw him
Thanks,
early
James.
in chat. What is up, James? And all right, we're going to show this up here. Yes. So glad you guys teamed up on MDD just over a year ago and went on to forge a thriving skeptic community. Glad I discovered you guys. Sending hearts.
Thank you so much, James.
Sending so much love, James. We could not be more appreciative of your support. And yes, it was great to really find the debate community and to really find a whole bunch of non-believers, agnostic, atheist, heathens, whatever you want to call yourself, science friendly. It has been an amazing journey.
I think we carved ourselves a nice little niche out in the later evening, overnight type of shift, as Scott Duke would say. So we're pumping out skeptic content almost 24 hours a day. There's going to be a channel you can go to where you're going to have anti-religion, atheist, skeptic content. And I'll tell you, I like our community. I really wouldn't trade it for anything, because we're not the biggest, but we do have a very close knit.
That's what he or she said.
Like our core viewers and our Patreons, they feel like family, almost like close friends. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
I just realized maybe I should send out the link in just. Well, I did send it in a member's message. Well, sending love so much.
Patreon?
Yes, I did. I sent it to Patreon and to the channel members. but I'm tempted just to send the link one more time into the community. But thank you so very much,
Thanks,
James
James. We
Wolf.
appreciate the
Thank you
support.
for hanging out with us tonight. Exactly. It is so exciting to get the show off the ground. And honestly, and he said, not a question or something funny. I am
Close
just
enough.
happy.
Close enough.
Exactly. Close enough. And we're just having to have a good time. And yeah, we're going
Keep
to
it
keep
more
on
informal.
going.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. How about this? What is up? Sending love. James Wolf.
Thanks, James.
Another sending love. Would you rather take the classical or presuppositional apologetic position in a pre-assigned theological debate? Hope that makes sense. I think it does. Well,
So,
are
so
you
you have to
asking?
debate,
Yeah, who we would debate either because it
or
almost
we would
sounded
have to
like
take that position.
or we would take that position because both of those are interesting. Both of those flavors. I'm not sure which is they're annoying in different ways. I find that the classical tends to be sometimes more dangerous in our school system, and somehow, for whatever reason, being a presuppositionalist just seems to naturally make someone an asshole. And I don't know why. It's just like you get this veneer that has to come with it. What do you
It's just
think,
such
James?
I think it's just such a tenuous position. They get so defensive because it's really their logic is really so faulty. It doesn't really take much for that house of cards to come down. So I think they just get the pre-subs get very defensive. That's why Darth Dawkins, like I've said before, would rather plunge his thingy
Oh my.
into a fire anthill than answer a few questions about his religion. Because once you start asking questions and you break it down, the whole thing's gonna fall apart.
Hells yeah.
Yeah, I would rather defend classical apologetics. I don't think the presup position is very convincing to too many people, um, unless you're a hardcore philosophy wonk and you just want to
Wonk,
engage
wonk.
in philosophy and rhetoric all the time. But I don't think it really convinces too many people. I think most
Yeah,
people just dismiss it, but as nonsense.
I think
What do you think?
presuppositionalism is basically an internet phenomena. As much as
Well,
they think atheism is, but
I think it,
evangelicalism is church to church. What were you gonna
I
say?
think I think presuppositionalism kind of reared its head in response to the classical classical apologists getting their clocks cleaned so many times,
Oh, sure,
getting their arguments and their rhetoric and everything torn to shreds,
absolutely.
that they had to retreat to a point of absurdity where you can't really even argue against it because what they're saying doesn't even mean anything. You
It's
know,
almost like it's a response to atheists winning so much ground, and
we're just
it
going to give you
is.
this word salad nonsense, and
I mean,
you try to work with that.
it's basically a philosophy 101 course, but when you answer properly to some of them, I don't know, that's not acceptable. But with classical, I mean, the world being 6,000 years old, I mean, is that's borderline flat Earth.
It's in the same ilk. But like I was listening to one of Mr. Batman's videos a couple months back, and he said this is what he said that
What did he say?
yeah, that because he of course he plays the I used to be an atheist. I used to believe in evolution. Okay, and he said some I forget who it was, maybe a relative or something asked him, like, oh, well, what about this? What about that? What about the origin of the universe? And he's like, and then I realized my worldview didn't take everything into account. So if you want to have like a correct worldview, it's going to answer every question you can pose. It's going to be all encompassing like religion is. And I think that's the fundamental thing that they don't understand is that as atheists, we don't have like how religion, particularly like Christianity, it affects like every area of your life, like your views on all sorts of things. Your political views tend to lean with that. Your views on morality and right and wrong, but atheist really doesn't have all that. So our secular worldview, our lack of belief in a deity, is really all that is. We don't. Outside of that, we can have different answers and different views on a myriad of things.
Yep, we're more like herding cats. All right, thank you so very much, James Wolfe. Keep on sending them in. But yes, we have another question from James Wolfe, sending so much love out there. Was rewatching Louis Therox's docus on Westboro Baptist Church recently. How valid is their claim that they are being more faithful to biblical doctrine than any other church, do you think? It's an interesting question. I would say that, in some ways they are correct. In other ways, they are like all the other Christians. Like, they sit there and say horrible things because they kind of know that it's inflammatory and they're trying to get your attention, but they don't go around stoning gays. And they are, how should I say this? They know that they're clickbait. Like, they are almost all of the uppers in the Westboro Baptist Church are lawyers, especially Fred Phelps and his daughter, though I think some of them did escape. And so what they really were doing is they were trying to be inflammatory so people would sue them and so that they could win on First Amendment grounds. And not to say that it was a scam, but it's kind of the theme of religion, isn't it?
Well, the Bible is a really big book, and it does contain a lot of contradictions. So you can, if you massage the text and you skip around it, you can find support for virtually any doctrine that you really want to. If you cherry pick and you know do some mental gymnastics, and that's kind of why there's so many thousands of Christian denominations out there, all from the same book. So, I mean, what they have is certainly a minority interpretation. It's kind of like ultra literalism in certain ways, but I think most Christians would say that they go too far in
Yes. Well, we
in
potty
their
trained
method.
the Christians so much that when you say that our troops are going to hell at a funeral for
Right.
someone who has recently died, your I think the clinical term is an asshole. And so it doesn't matter what your theology is, and they could try to quote mine things from the Bible and blah 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 blah. I'm not even sure half the time mean it, except for because when you push them on it, they're just like, well, we're just trying to warn you that you're going to hell, which is, once again, you get that from other Christians. You rub their belly and you get the same
Well,
stuff. They're just being purposely inflammatory.
I think you have to realize, so a lot of these Christian denominations out there have completely abandoned major tenets of Christianity to make their version of it more palatable, to keep people coming into the church. They've had to liberalize their doctrine. And the thing is, if it's the truth, why would you ever have to compromise or liberalize it? If it's the truth, why? If it's the truth, then it would be the truth today. But you don't have to go too far back in history where, well, if you ask today, Christians, should we execute gay people? I think probably 75-80% would say no. But if you did that 200 years ago, it would probably be 75 or 80% say yes, absolutely. That's what the Bible says. So the Westboro, they've taken like Christianity from like the 1600s and springboarded it forward. Even though most of the rest of Christendom has liberalized, they've softened their tone on a lot of these things for expediency's sake, because otherwise they would lose all their members. People wouldn't go. The Catholic Church had to do the same thing with the Vatican II, where they basically rewrote a good chunk of Catholicism after the 1960s was radically different from before. And that's because people were not going to bend their will to conform to the church anymore. So the church had to conform to what the people wanted them to conform to. But
and I just wanted to, I believe, quote what James was trying to say. I'm a man of the land. I'm in two discipline. I've got a Bible in my hand and a beard on my chin. But if I finish all of my chores and you finish thine, well, tonight then we're gonna party like it's 1699.
sounds good. But I remember watching that documentary that he's talking about, the Louis Theroux documentary, and I remember in that because he was talking a lot to Fred Phelps's granddaughters, and of course they were, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 at the time, so they were still pretty young and indoctrinated. But he wasn't being mean to them, but he was kind of questioning their the things that they believe and their theology. And I remember looking at it and like you could almost see like the wheels grinding in their heads, like, oh, wait a minute, what he's saying actually does kind of make sense. I don't have good answers for that because I've just been indoctrinated into this shit since I was a baby. I don't know anything else. I've never had been exposed to people asking the tough questions because this is just not everything I've been presented with. So you get somebody asking questions, making good points, and you don't know how to react to it. I said to myself, those girls, give them 10 years, they'll be atheists. And I believe they are today atheists.
And if you're religious, chances are you get exposed to other things. But
hey. The Fred Phelps thing, though, that is kind of interesting because I believe, and this is just it's unconfirmed reports. I'm not going to say it's true, but I think towards the last 2 or 3 years of his life, he was actually expelled from the church because, now, what would get you expelled from Westboro Baptist Church? What would be like the one thing that would make them want to throw you out? Well, softening your stance on homosexuality, and I think that might have happened. And look, I'm not saying, because the story I heard was that who is it? That one group that tries to prevent LGBT kids from committing suicide, like the Matthew Shepard thing, the Laramine Project or something like that. I think Fred Phelps said that they were good people, and I think that's just what I read anyway. That is what was the catalyst for him saying that these people who are trying to prevent kids from suicide or depression are good people, which they are, but that was enough to get him thrown out of the church. Now, I would say that doesn't necessarily undo the decades of hurt and harm that he caused the people. It doesn't make all that go away even if he softened his tone at the end. But I guess that's what we would hope for, is that even somebody like that, somebody could at least be a little bit less of an asshole. I don't know.
I mean, what I wish is that I'm trying to think if I should. What I wish is for people to be normalized. I'll say the story. Had a guy who looked like he was just from Breaking Bad, like he was straight out of like that Hank guy. And at the very early on in the workday, at the job that I was just one of the learning associates comes over and they make sure that everyone is just doing their job okay. And early on the day, the the gentleman looked at the learning associate and was like, "Oh, you're just trying to make sure he's doing everything all right." And you could tell that the guy looked between me and him, the learning. He was just like sweating and was like, "Ha ha ha! Don't bring me into it." And I didn't really notice anything until the learning associate came over to me later and was like, "I am so sorry for whatever." I'm like, eh. And but the problem is that you're stuck with people for hours and hours and hours. And the funny thing is, even though I don't think this guy liked me at all from the beginning, I can't help it. I talk with people, we schmooze, and eventually this guy is getting friendlier and friendlier with me. He every few minutes he starts to come over and talk with me. I'm learning about how he was in a scooter accident and he had to fix it and the parts that he had to get. And by the end of the night, he's basically we're saying good night to each other, as in like, I hope you're having a good night. And I could feel by the end that I had humanized myself to him in a way that I don't think he had ever seen me that way before. And so that really is all you need. You just need a single person to make a human connection. I found a lot of times when I actually don't reprimand them for any type of bad transaction, like when I'm fighting someone in chat or on whatever and they pronoun me wrong, I either I give them some of the same back, or I just ignore it altogether and just keep on rolling with going after anti-theology. It kind of loses its effect, and they kind of have to refocus on whatever the hell they were talking about. And so, yeah. But point of the story is the human connection, and seems to really make a difference.
Definitely.
But yeah, thank you so much, James Wolfe. I see one more in a nothing love. James Wolfe says the big book of multiple choice, right? And that really is what many Christians tend to treat this as, and Jews and Muslims with their Quran. You can pick whatever you want.
And that's the thing. If you skip around and you you can get almost anything you want out of it. You can find the verses to support just about anything.
Exactly. You can make it your own personal religion.
And that's why there's so many different sects with radically different beliefs. And that's why there are even different beliefs within sects. I've always said, you'll never find a Christian who agrees with another Christian about everything. Heck, sometimes it's hard to find a Christian who agrees with another Christian about anything. They all have their own different nuance and ideas and, philosophical opinions. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we often say the Christian sitting in the pew probably has a different view than the person on the right on the pew and the person on the left, and probably completely different views from everyone behind them, and most certainly different views than the minister, pastor, priest, imam, rabbi.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll just wrap
Religion's
up.
a scam.
Say it, religion is a scam. And all right, the last question of the night. Sending so much love. We really do enjoy all of our supporters for hanging out, and we are going to be doing from James Wolf, sending so much love, going for a run shortly. Thanks for indulging me. This was fun. Woo!
Thanks so much, James.
Thank you so much, James. I really do want to thank you. I want to thank Regos, Rachel, and all of you out there who hung out with us tonight. I want to really thank James for Wolf for putting up all these questions and comments. And it really was a great time. Do you have any?
First of many.
Exactly. First of many. We understand that this will probably be a shorter stream once it's edited down for just the questions, but we actually hope that this grows. So thank you so very much.
We get more Patreon.
James Wolf. Well, not only that, but
people hear about it.
Before we wrap up, thank you so very much, James Wolf. We do want to thank you for joining us on tonight's episode of Ask Me Anything or Say Something Funny, the first one. Holy moly. That's right. The show where we read questions or one-liners from our supporters, and we hope to grow this show even more. Like we were saying, you are able to email us your questions or come to the shows once a month. This was for the month of June. Woohoo! It's Pride Month, baby. But we were also going to be having another episode in July. This time we will post it up beforehand so that people can send it. Exactly. We have everything set up now. So this will continue to only grow. And I hope you guys had so much fun. I want to thank my co-host, JW. I want to thank our producer, Gizmo, and all of our channel members, our Patreons, our chat mods, subscribers, and viewers like you. Thank you so very much, guys. Please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and why not leave a comment after the video is done. We also have our Skeptic and Ranting Discord server, the link of which is down below, along with the join membership button to help become a channel member, or our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman, and we hope you all keep on having more skeptical adventures. Good
Thanks,
night,
guys.
everyone.
We didn't have Randolph to give his cat alert.
Randolph is sending a cat alert. The godfather of atheism. Huh.